Hello, everyone. Happy Monday as you are watching or listening to this. Appreciate you taking some time. We're here to maximize your Monday once again. As you can see, a new guest. I have Camille with me this week. How are you this week?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Been looking forward to having you on for some time. You're one of the people that I see the most is active on LinkedIn and creation of content. So we're certainly going to talk about that in terms of what it is you do to build your unique brand and how you've gotten the engagement that you've gotten through that. And certainly want to give the listeners, viewers some insight in terms of how you utilize your branding as a way to not only create a candidate experience, but also how you used it for your own job search recently as well. So before we jump into that, if you know the show, you know we usually talk about what goals we have, what's motivating us for the week ahead. And for me, motivators 1 through 1,000 is this is my last week, and then I have a beach vacation coming up. So very much looking forward to that. I normally have three different things that I break down, but honestly, my week's just going to be so packed with like getting ready for that, packing, getting the dogs situated, making sure that we have snacks, the iPad loaded for the 3.5 hour drive down, and of course making sure that all my work stuff is caught up. So that's just kind of the main thing that I'm going to be looking forward to the whole week ahead. My daughter's at the age now where like everything about the beach is exciting for her. So the boardwalk, the sand, maybe the ocean, we'll see. Last year she was not having it. So maybe this year she'll be a little more bit more brave in terms of getting at least her feet into the water. We'll see, but the rest of the stuff is good. And so a motivator for me as well is just to kind of keep on myself with clean eating, because usually when I'm down at the beach, it's just junk the entire week. So the week ahead that I have here, I want to make sure that I'm not eating a lot of junk so I can treat myself while I'm down there. So that's the motivator.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Vacation body for sure. So as I go forward, the goals for the week ahead, with me being out the whole next week, that means that my open positions are going to be covered by one of my teammates. So usually if I'm out for extended period, the main thing I want to do is be prepared for that so that I'm not just handing off like a chaotic mess for them to step into the Monday that I start being away. So just making sure that my candidates kind of know the process. If we have interviews lined up with hiring managers or on-site visits, tours, just getting all that scheduled and communicated with everyone so that everyone can just kind of monitor the situation and not have to do anything else. And then I do have two new positions that I'm opening. So just making sure those are taken care of as well, getting everything posted across the job boards so that while I'm out, those positions can start to get hits and my teammate who's covering for me can start to take over from there. And then
Awesome.
my win from the week before is just two filled positions. So always I talked about this a couple weeks ago as recruiters. A filled position is a three-way win because the candidate gets their new,
Mhm.
I get to cross one off the books, and the hiring manager gets an awesome candidate that they get to start through in training and get them excited about their role. So that was two three-way wins for me this past week. So that's what's
That's
going
awesome.
my week. Sorry to cut you off there, Camille. What's going on in your week?
Oh, that's okay. Like you had mentioned, I kind of used my content when I had started my new job as well. So I think just a motivator for me is still being a few months into my new role. So it is exciting to close out those positions that maybe they had a hard time filling
Yeah.
in some of those tougher territories, which was one of the ones that I closed this week. So I was super excited about that. But yeah, just motivated to keep pushing those initiatives that they have and working with the hiring managers and building those relationships has been really great. But it's nice to check those off the list as I've only been here for a few months and continue to close out positions has been exciting.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So let's talk first about the branding that you do, because I think that people who know me have probably seen me like, comment, share your stuff in the past. So they're probably at least familiar with what it is you do. So I know some people are very strategic with the content they put on. Some people just kind of post in the moment what they're feeling. So what does that really look like for you? Because you're very active across social media. So is it just kind of you plan to some things out and the rest is as it comes to you, or is it all strategic in terms of what you put up?
That's so funny that you asked that because someone actually reached out to me yesterday asking if I planned my posts. And I've done it a few times, but really everything I post is like I just have an idea or something happens and I just put it out there. And that's where it's like a creative outlet for me. So I feel as if I schedule it or put too much pressure on it, it's not as fun anymore.
Right.
So I really have it be a good creative outlet for me, whether it's like a conversation from a candidate or a coworker, or just anything related to I post. I just kind of have fun with it and post it in the moment whenever the idea comes.
Yeah, for sure. So within the different things that you posted, a lot of it is you do a lot of video content on your page, as well as some other long thought out copywriting type style posts as well. So within those posts, has there been one avenue that you either enjoy most or that you've gotten the most feedback from in terms of being able to then create a new experience for other people in terms of advice that you're giving?
Yeah, I think what I focus on mostly since I am a recruiter is like candidate advice and like helping through like the very start of their job search up until like negotiation during that offer process. So I really enjoy helping candidates kind of through that whole interview process and resume advice, all of that, as well as like mental health in the workplace tips and just mental health in general. I think those are like the two most things I talk about and
Yeah.
have most connected with other people about.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Especially right now when it's so tough for a lot of job seekers, especially in recruitment, as I'm sure you've seen, which is kind of my next question because you recently went through your job search and it was a short-lived one. So what did you rely on in terms of finding that new position for you? Because you seem to be very strategic in that sense, in terms of what you were looking for, what companies were going to align with what you wanted to do. So what did that entire process look like for you? So now when people come to you for advice, you're able to kind of guide them down that path.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think unfortunately so many people are getting laid off right now and I think no one wants to like start applying right away or anything like that. You kind of want to take that time.
Mhm.
But I think you really have to make the choice right away because I feel like that timing is so important and maybe there's a right opportunity and you always have that like 2 weeks for background check and everything.
Right.
So it's never a bad time to just putting your resume out there. So what I did is I figured out what I wanted to do next. I was in an agency role before working as a consultant, and I knew that I wanted to get back into corporate and internal recruiting. So I knew that I knew what I wanted for my salary expectations. I knew that I was open to going into the office. Now I have a hybrid role. I go in 1 or 2 times a week. So I kind of just made a list of everything that I was looking for. And then I went to LinkedIn right away to share that my position had been affected. If anyone had any connections, I started reaching out to any mentors that I had and everything. And it does seem like a lot when you just got laid off that morning, but it really is just like a few messages. And it really did pay off because I got let go on a Friday. The recruiter messaged me on LinkedIn on Sunday night, and I had a job offer on Thursday afternoon. So it happened really fast, but it was just because I was able to use my network that I had been building by creating content. And it was just all through connections. So I'm glad that I was doing that. And I encourage anyone just to reach out, put the word out there. You don't even have to start applying right away. Just connect with your network and your connections, your mentors, just let them know that you're looking. And odds are someone knows someone who's hiring.
Yeah, absolutely. And networking is one of those things where that's kind of the key piece of advice I'll give to anyone that reaches out to me in terms of what they can do to not just build their brand, but get their foot in the door the next step. And it seems like an overwhelming process, easier for some than others when it comes to not just sending that request to connect with someone, but a lot of people like to be creative with that, put a personalized message when they can. So for you, when it comes to networking, how do you approach that situation? Is it something that you just kind of see who's aligned with what you're trying to do with content creation and beyond? Or is there something else that you try to use when you're networking and building your network for a support system?
Yeah, I think as far as the support system, since I'm connected with a lot of recruiters, I think that's really helpful. So I think whatever industry you're in, start connecting with people at various companies, whether they have more experience than you, whether they're like just out of college and new at a company. I think it's really great to connect with anyone in the industry because you never know who will be a hiring manager one day, who will be sharing a job post that their company is hiring. So I feel like networking when a couple years ago used to be only adding people you know on LinkedIn, or I
Right.
feel like they used to have a thing that popped up. It's like, do you know this person? But
Right.
no one really knows anyone on LinkedIn until you start networking and connecting and like building those relationships. So any networking advice would just be to put yourself out there, start connecting with others who are in the same industry or department, maybe the same area as you, because you never know when there's a time for collaboration or you might be looking for a new opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, as recruiters, and we kind of talked about this before we started recording here, is some of the key questions we'll get is resume advice, and
Mhm.
I get that question a lot, and I don't really know how to answer it because I'm not a resume writer, and there are some fantastic ones out there. So if that's what you're looking for, that would be my first choice in terms of going to for advice. But when people ask you that question, is there something that you try to either point them in the right direction with a resume writer, or is there actual advice that you can give to them based on what you've seen that's worked for other candidates that you've worked with?
Yeah, so when I had gotten out of college, I had gotten resume advice. So what I always recommend to people is make sure your resume isn't a job description. Make sure it's actual action items with metrics like showing your success and using it to brag about yourself. And no one is ever going to say that you're too specific on a resume. People always say, "Oh, this is too general. Like, what did you do here? What did you do there?" So just being specific, brag about yourself, metrics, action items, I think would be my best advice. And I've seen a lot of success with people who can change their resume pretty quickly that looks like a job description to an action item. It makes the world a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, the other question I'll ask you as recruiters, one of the things that we try to do for candidates is the preparation for interviews. Because a lot of people
Mhm.
at that point, it's they send out their resumes to as many places as they can sometimes, and then they'll get the interview, they get nervous, they psych themselves out, and they feel like they bombed the interview. So, as a recruiter, when you're preparing your candidates for that next step, the interview with the hiring manager, what's some of the insight you try to give to them to prepare them and not get them so nervous that they feel like they're rushing through things or missing key questions that they want to have asked to the hiring manager?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing is like as a recruiter in our phone screen, we try to give all the general information and then the hiring managers part of their interview is like more specifics about the day to day. Specifically, I do account executive roles, so then they can talk more about like the commission plan and more specifics. So I think I always send information about the company, about the role, answer any questions that they might have in the phone screen, and then I'm always very transparent with like what the process looks like, how fast we move pretty quickly at Rewards Network in our interview process. So I think just setting them up for expectations, what to expect throughout the interview process. If maybe one interviewer asks specific questions to all of our candidates, I'll let them know so they can prepare like their metrics, numbers, things like that before the time. But usually I'll just give them a heads up of like what will be discussed. I'll say the hiring manager can answer these questions for you. Like he'll be asking about your sales experience. So be ready to talk about like the product and service that you sold, what your day to day was like, and just kind of give them an idea. But I know agency recruiters, when I had worked at Hirewell in the past, they would really give them like a full page of what to prepare for, questions to prepare. And then another thing, and I don't do this at my role currently, but I know a lot of my friends do who are recruiters. If you look up like the most 25 asked questions in interviews,
Mhm.
they say if you're new to like the job search, write those down on a piece of paper and answer every single question. And I think having a cheat sheet of like your success, your metrics, what you're looking for is really great for an interview as well. So just kind of having everything laid out in front of you to be prepared, because it's way better to be over prepared than under prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So then beyond that, in terms of creating a candidate experience that is going to be rewarding for everyone involved, what are some of the other things that you try to do to not just make your candidate comfortable with the interview, but with you as their recruiter now moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think definitely the transparency of the interview process, as well as we use grayscale. So we text with our candidates like before when we're scheduling, and then right before their interview as like a reminder and good luck. Let me know if you have any questions, anything like that. So just creating a positive experience is really important.
Hmm.
And just making sure that if they have any questions throughout the interview process, and just kind of connecting with them after like the hiring manager interview, the final interview, and just staying connected, making sure that they're still interested in the role. Maybe if they have any questions that they didn't feel comfortable asking the hiring manager, I can certainly answer those for them. So I
Hmm.
think just creating like a positive relationship and transparency is important, and open communication.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So the final question, and one I asked to everyone, and you've already given some insight on this, so I'm going to pose it a little differently because it's usually that key piece of advice that you would give to anyone who's either looking to transition into a new career or is going through their job search right now. But I'm going to pose it to you a little differently because of the content creation aspect that we talked about. So that's kind of a major thing that people struggle with is how do I get started in this? How do I start building my brand and putting my voice out there on LinkedIn or other social media sites. So what does that advice look like for you when people come to you like, hey, how do I even get started in terms of making myself a brand that I'm putting out there for people to see as a possible candidate for a position?
Yeah, I think the best piece of advice that I could give is kind of find what you want to talk about. I know I talked about like candidate job search, job advice, interview advice, and mental health in the workplace are like my things I always talk about. So
Hmm.
I think it's easier to create content if you're passionate about something. So you
Yeah.
just kind of have to find what topics you're interested in, and then it'll just flow naturally from there, and you'll just start to have fun with it. But it definitely is one of those things, like you'll have those weeks or your days that you're not really interested in creating content, and that's totally okay. Like you will be there again and you'll be excited about it. But I think the best way to get started is just kind of looking on LinkedIn, maybe even other websites that you're interested in, and find some topics that you feel like you have a lot to say about, or maybe some knowledge and advice you can give, and just kind of start with that, and then it'll just kind of grow into like your topic that you always talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, one more question, because I've heard you mention it twice now, and I don't want to let you go before I ask the question about the mental health and the workplace
Yeah.
aspect, because I think that's a very important aspect for anyone that's going through a job search and one that's often overlooked. So, as you prepare candidates or give advice to people that come to you and talk about mental health in the workplace, how do you try to guide them in terms of making that one of the things they can focus on either during the interview or during their initial research into companies that they want to work for?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always been really passionate about mental health because my bachelor's degree is actually in psychology.
Mhm.
So whenever you're looking at new companies as a candidate, I think it's important to look at their website and pay attention. Do they have employee resource groups? Look at their LinkedIn. Does it seem like they have like mental health days? Do things for volunteering? Like, what does that look like as far as like flexibility, paid time off? And I think you can usually get a pretty good idea of it. And even seeing other people's posts about like their managers, things like that on LinkedIn, and the reviews as well. I think that helps you get a good idea. But also in the interview process, you can ask about like employee resource groups. What kind of resources do they have? Like medical insurance? Do they have any type of insurance for like therapy, mental health days, anything like that? So if you're not comfortable asking the hiring manager, you can definitely ask the recruiter. But I think those some are important things to note as well.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So, Camille, I appreciate so much you taking the time to jump on here with me. If you're not connected with her, following her yet, make sure you're doing that. Click the link in the post above. Otherwise, have a great week ahead. You will not see me next week because I will be at the beach, but hope you have a fantastic end of June, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.